Hi, Carla. How are you doing today?
So great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to have this conversation with you.
Yes, me too. Thank you so much for being on today. And I always feel the best way to get started is to let the listeners know who you are and what do you bring to this world.
Gosh, that's a big question.
I know.
Yeah, so I am an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur since, gosh, maybe forever, but officially since like 2003, 4-ish was kind of my first venture. I'm a mom. I have two now grown sons who are 18 and 20, married, live in Arizona, kind of in a not your so typical Arizona living. We live kind of on a farm with animals and things like that. So very different. And I have been, gosh, on a mission to really create possibility and help people to not feel trapped by their circumstances. And that really comes from my own personal story. So I don't know if you wanted me to dive into that now, but that's the work that I do in the world. And truly just an honor to be able to do this work in the world. I feel like it's just been in my heart for maybe since I was born. And so I feel honored to get to do that work today.
Yes, yes. I would definitely love to hear your story, but a farm in Arizona, because when I think of Arizona, I'm like desert, no grass anywhere. So,
I know we live on irrigated property. So like we have just over 4 acres and my husband lived here before I met him. And we've had, gosh, horses and cows and we have people that lease the pasture. We've had chickens. And so, yes, it's very non-traditional Arizona living, but we love it. It's a
uh,
great place to raise boys.
yes, that's awesome. So, I would love to start with a little bit of your story and how that works into how you yourself create some work-life balance with your farm and your kids and just life in general.
Yeah, so it all kind of started with my own story. I was one of really who my client is today is really kind of hyper achieving, glued to my to-do list and spent half my life really trying to check those boxes that I thought were going to lead to that happy, successful life. And I checked a lot of those boxes and realized that while everything on the outside looked good on paper, I was empty inside. And that was a huge pivot point in my life and really a turning point to trying to figure out. I knew in my heart there had to be a different way of doing life that wasn't all about just working harder and doing more and being better and pleasing others and making it all look good on the outside. And I really made it my mission first to figure that out in my own life and was introduced to really great tools and resources to start to pay less attention to the outside and what I was doing and more attention on the inside to what I was thinking and how I was behaving, because a lot of that was tied to what I call now like your old survival way of living. And no matter how hard I worked, I wasn't creating the results in my life that I wanted. And it really took digging on the inside to figure that out. And so that sort of pivot point in my own life is what allowed me to start to steer the ship differently from like, it's not about this achievement, achievement, achievement. And how do we figure out how to create a fulfilling life here and now while we're also still want to achieve and be reaching towards goals, but not putting our life off till someday?
Yes, oh, I relate to that so much, you checked all the boxes, you went to college, you got the job, and I was like, "Why am I not happy then? I did everything I was supposed to do, you know? Why am I miserable and living for the little slice of weekend that I got to actually do things I wanted to do?" So, I think a lot of
Yes.
people can relate to that. So, as entrepreneurs, I think it's really hard to shut our brains off, especially when it comes to, like, time with our family and time away. Like, my office is in my bedroom now, and it's, like, right there all the time, so trying to shut off that brain because we obviously care about our businesses, and it's on our brain 24/7. So how can we create those boundaries between work and life?
Yeah, and I focus less on boundaries and more on really learning to change the relationship with your thinking and your mind and learning to think about our life. Like as entrepreneurs, we know how to create success in our business world, right? So that's where we're comfortable. And so we spend a lot of time there and we're passionate about it. And so our brain naturally spends a lot of time there. But for the people I know that I work with and myself in my own life, I also had these other priorities that were kind of eating away at me because my energy, my mental energy, physical energy was kind of lopsided into my business. And I wasn't spending the quality of time that I wanted to be on my marriage or with my kids and all of that. And so it's those priorities that were out of alignment that really had me want to look at how can I do this differently? And so I think one of the places is to look is what is how is your mind wreaking havoc on you and causing you like as entrepreneurs, we don't necessarily have more time. And so I like to look at what can we eliminate that could free up more time. And our minds are spending a lot of time spinning and causing us to behave in ways that maybe are outdated and no longer useful. And so I like to work in those places to help people find and harness time and energy that they didn't know they have. And that can look like, maybe we have this kind of built-in system that has us always needing to please others or make everybody else happy, right? Which causes us to commit to things that we don't really need to be committing to that take us away from the things that are really important. So I feel like there's treasure and loads amount of time and energy we can harness if we're willing to be courageous and kind of look at those places.
Oh, that's a really interesting way to look at it. Yes, I love that. So I feel like because of everything you just said, we kind of feel like we're in survival mode, like just going from one thing to the next and trying to make it through the day before we crash in bed at night. So do you have like I don't know, number one tip or best tip? It can be any tip
Yeah.
actually for just
Yeah.
starting to find our way out of that.
Yeah, so for me, journaling, writing, whatever you wanna call it, is writing is a really incredible tool for one, just kinda harnessing your mind instead of it running you, like you really starting to be able to lead it. One of the greatest pieces of advice I ever got was don't believe everything you think. And so as a hyper achiever, our brain is constantly, or for me, it was like a monster on my shoulder, constantly telling me, you need to be working, you need to be working, you need to be working. And I had to start challenging that voice in my head and say, wait a minute, do I really? Like, let me really look and discern. Do I need to be working? And that alone, just kind of starting to challenge your own thinking is a really powerful way to just take back the lead of your life. This bully in your head doesn't run your life, you do. And so writing is a great way to pay attention to your thinking and really start to look, what am I allowing to run in my head all day long? Is it lifting me up or is it dragging me down and holding me back? So writing is a great tool and it's a great way to start your day and even end your day. And just emptying some of the mental trash on a daily basis is really powerful.
Yes, I journal every morning. It really helps to it's kind of like a brain dump, just get everything out. But I completely understand what you're saying when I left my corporate job and I would take a break between 9 to 5, like to just take a break. I would feel so guilty. I'd be like, I'm supposed to be working. Like this little voice is telling me, no, you work
Yes.
during this time. So it's really hard to switch your mindset during
And
that
I
transition.
think that guilty feeling is something that comes up all the time. And it's something that I dealt with for years. And I'm happy to say that it is possible to really quiet, almost silence that voice. And I think as women, we really have to challenge it and let it, instead of letting it just kind of run us. And like I was saying, bully you around, just shine a light. I think guilt can be a great messenger. Sometimes it might be telling you, like, maybe you do need to spend a little more time over here with your kids. And it doesn't always mean quantity, it might just be the quality of time, or most often, that guilt voice is just an old habit that honestly doesn't serve you. And if you can shine a light on it, it's not as scary as it feels. And you might just like look at it and say, do I really need to feel guilty here? And then to really discern for yourself and make a choice instead of it just autopilot, making you feel terrible. We don't
Yes.
have we don't have time or energy to waste as entrepreneurs. So that's one place we can start to take our power back.
Yes, definitely not. Just taking that pause and thinking, why am I feeling this
Yeah,
way?
are you real?
Yeah.
Is that voice even real?
Yes, I love that. Yes. So you yourself have a podcast called Differently, and it talks
I
about
do.
building a life differently, which is a great title. So why did you decide to start a podcast?
Yeah, so it's funny because I never thought I would have a podcast. It wasn't even in my vision at all. I was actually talking to a client one day and I was asking her just some questions. She'd been working with me for a while. And I was asking her kind of just from her vantage point, like what she saw and how I could tell my stories better and really honor the work that I do with people and share it. And she said, I think you should have a podcast. And I mean, initially I was like, no way. No way would I ever have a podcast. I mean, confidence has been an issue for me from the time I was a little girl. And while I've done a lot of speaking over the years, I never wanted to speak. I just have a mission or a vision inside of a message inside of me that I feel called to share. And so she said that, and I dismissed it. And then that seed kind of like started just germinating, I guess. And I started thinking about it like, what if I did have a podcast? And I do all of my coaching work over the phone. It's kind of this natural extension of what I already do, and that it just started to grow, and I thought about first having one with my husband because that was kind of more comfortable to co-host something, and then I really just started to think, "What if I did? And what if I could get myself equipped?" Because the project felt really big, right? Like, how do you even do that? And I took a course to kinda learn those pieces, and then it just started to come together, and honestly, it's been one of the greatest joys of my business journey thus far. I absolutely love it.
Yes. And I feel like with your clientele that like busy entrepreneurs, it's so easy just to stick it in their ears and, you know, do the dishes, the
While you're
laundry,
doing
drive. Yeah.
something else.
Yes. It's my favorite way to learn because I can
Me
multitask.
too. I love it.
Yes. So, how has your podcast been able to support or grow your business?
Yeah, so I think I'm still definitely in the growth stage of my podcast, but I think for right now, like it's a tool for my clients. So it's become like this knowledge base for my body of work, right? That I can point my clients to and where they can deepen the work that we're doing together. So and that was really one of my intentions was to kind of build this body of work, but it's also starting to touch people that I necessarily would have never crossed paths with. And that was my other intention was not everyone's going to have a coach. Not everybody wants to have a coach, but how can I share this important message and reach people that will never do coaching? And it's starting to do that and seeing it. And I mean, I've met so many great people having guests on, right? So
Mhm.
it's expanded my network in that way. And it's brought in clients who they get to kind of, I guess, learn more about you before they ever engage with you. And they get a sense of who you are. They get a sense of how you work and how you think. And it's kind of a natural extension of like, "Oh, I wanna know more."
Yes.
So, it's been that too.
Yes, definitely. I have hired a coach from listening to her podcast and just getting to know her and all the value she gave. And I was like, wow, she's giving me all this value for free. Like, I can't imagine what
Right.
she'll do once I pay
Yes.
her. So,
Right.
yes, it's
Right.
really a great way to build
And
that like and trust.
and I think initially it was kind of a step in my own journey that I felt like I had to take to and I know this is part of your mission is like just to share my voice in a bigger way and be courageous and get out of my own comfort zone for the sake of impacting more people.
Yes. Yes, that's why I started mine too. I was hiding behind doing everybody else's
Yes,
podcast. I'm like, it's time to put myself out there.
exactly.
Well, this has been such a great conversation. Thank you so much for being on today. Can you tell the listeners how they can connect with you more? Because I know they're going to want to.
Yeah, so my website is carlareeves.com. You can find me on Instagram and LinkedIn at Carla S. Reeves. And then the podcast on your favorite podcast player is Differently.
I will definitely have all those links in the
Mhm.
show notes. Thank you again so much for bringing so much value and making me have those little shifts that now I'm going to think when I have that guilty feeling, I am going to
Yes,
pause and be like, wait a minute.
good. I love that. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for having me.